Okay, so I know a lot of people aren't gonna like this video. Honestly, a lot of people wouldn't like any of the videos, to be honest. But I'm gonna go over some things that I kind of already have a couple times. I'm pretty sure I did in the age gap dating for orphans video. I definitely talked about this issue a lot back on the evidence channels, but honestly, I doubt anybody here is even from those. I'm pretty sure, like, most people here who actually do watch the videos every now and then are, like, I don't know, recent people to come here. But, I don't know, it kind of usually doesn't even click to me that people actually do watch the videos sometimes. Like, I just think about me making these videos for me, maybe for me to, like, send them to certain people who I meet that are in certain situations. I never really think much about people actually watching the videos because I didn't really want people to, because I know that, like, if enough people actually seen the videos, I would have been banned a long time ago. And I definitely would get banned real quick. But anyways, I'm going to talk about age gaps, developmental delays, how many of us will either end up dating people who are younger or dating people who are older. The people who don't want to date people who are younger than them will date people who are older. And this is like people with, I guess, certain issues. Kind of like how I said that, quote-unquote autistic kids commonly end up dating quote-unquote autistic pedophiles. Just had to kill a spider right quick. But yeah. So anyways, they'll be like, well, I don't want to be the bad guy. Or maybe they just don't have, like, the attraction or paraphilias for it. Or they just feel like it's bad to date people that are even just, like, a year or a couple years younger than them. So they'll be like, well, I feel like that's being the bad guy. But instead, I'm just going to date people who are in their 50s. And it's kind of like, it's really two extremes. That's what it really is. But there could be other things going along with that, though, like mommy daddy issues. But it seems like often it's just like developmental stuff, paraphilias, and not getting along with people your own age, addiction, addiction and trauma, addiction to people, and certain types of situations. I'm not saying it's the victim blame, but I don't know if I want to tell a story that I'm about to tell starting off, or if I want to start reading first, but I guess I might as well before I forget. So, I knew this, what was she? I guess she was like a case manager, I don't think so. I don't know, I'm just gonna say staff at a youth resource center. And I was telling her about some circumstances I had with someone I knew. Yeah. And so she was like, I had a friend like that, and he was about, 13, 14, and I just had to stop talking to him because his situation was too much for me, and I was really worried about him because, like, he would keep seeking out these old dudes and going out to, do all types of sexual things with them, and he would always come back and tell her I had to find my way out of that situation, I had to sneak out of this situation, or I barely made it out of that one. And she was like, I know that this is a human need. And I was just thinking, first of all, the idea that you need to, like, do all that is just bullcrap. And you definitely don't need to, like, be 14 with, like, grown men. You definitely, there's so much I can say about that, but it's like, due to certain issues and circumstances, some people definitely do seek these situations out, and I understand why, but I don't want to, like, victim blame, but I can say that in a lot of situations, some people kind of are comfortable in their mess and they don't really want out of the situation because they're addicted to it or they're used to it or they don't see anything else. But there's the point I was supposed to be getting at, but I don't remember what it was. This is going to be really out of order, but I really want to say all the things that I need to say first and tell all the stories first before I forget what I'm supposed to say. So, second, when I was or did I delete that part? Did I edit that part out? I don't even know, but when I was having this talk the other day with somebody about whether 16 and 19 was a bad age gap, they had said something that made me think back to like a conversation I had about the serious issues at Job Corps with one of my abusers. So anyway, she was like 16 and 19 isn't bad because of years, but because of a different stage of life. And before I go off onto a rant, it made me think about when I asked my sister about one of the many predatory people aside from the staff, which they were real bad at Job Corps, and I was just calling him the 21-year-old predator. Now, well, no, because if I go into that, I'm going to go way somewhere else. Honestly, I will put the video in the description, but I don't really want people to, like, actually know who my siblings are. At least not anymore, really, because that was, like, on the evidence channels, but my sister had a video talking about her own similar situations. Well, honestly, it wasn't really similar to this, but age gaps anyway. So, anywho, the dude was 21. He had a sister who was 16. He was always like making up excuses to be around all the 16-year-old girls and like harass everybody. And honestly, he was dating this one girl who was 17, which really threw me off because it's like the way he was trying to like assault everybody else. I would have even thought that he was really dating anybody. And so anyways, he was always trying to like assault me and stuff like that. And the boy who was trafficked by the US military, who was assaulted with me and this one other boy by that doctor, he really didn't like the dude either, the 21-year-old dude. And so when I got kicked out in 2 weeks, and I told my older enabler sister about it, she was like, well, a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old are maybe in the same stage of life. And the thing is, this stage of life thing really throws me off. And honestly, regardless of what, the way he was going about everything was very predatory for so many different reasons. So it's like, if he wasn't the way that he was and wasn't doing things the way he was and wasn't doing the things he was doing to people, then it could have been whatever. But it's like, just the way he was going about things was very assaulty. And that's what made things way worse than they had to be. Especially with him pretending that he had to hang around a whole bunch of 16-year-old girls just because he was quote-unquote watching his sister. When his sister acted like she was some type of thug anyways. And honestly, with a lot of the mannerisms about her and how she was always trying to act like she was like some tough dude and like she was like, I don't know, a dude or something, I honestly really feel like he assaulted her at one point. But I don't want to go back into the Job Corps chronicles of that little 2 weeks, barely even 2 weeks. Crazy how so much could happen so quick. But anyways, back to the whole same stage of life thing. The same stage of life thing really throws me and a lot of other people off because it's like, this honestly could lead to people dating people who are way too young or way too old for them still, because it's like, what does that even necessarily mean? Or people could even say developmental gaps or differences in brain function and stuff like that, but it's like, when you're developmentally delayed, you would either end up like having more in common with younger or older people, but also the fact that like even in age gaps that aren't that big, people could like act like there's a difference just because of the certain situations that the people are in. And hopefully this is going to make sense. Like, for example, my old quote-unquote stepmom. So, as I've mentioned before, I'm pretty sure, she was paying bills pretty much her whole life. Somewhat similar to me, although, well, nah, because I'd be way somewhere else. So, she was paying bills from a young age. I know specifically she had to start working at 14 or younger to take care of her mom, her younger sister, pay bills, and probably was taking care of dudes too. And I'm sure even being molested by multiple different dudes. Her mom was on whatever substances. And she just had to do a lot of things that she shouldn't have had to do. And she ended up becoming a nurse's assistant. I'm not sure at what age, but due to all this, she feels like people are quote unquote grown, which I don't even like that term for so many different reasons, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to explain it, but she just feels like people are quote unquote grown, whatever that really means, way before they really are, especially with how people are quote unquote raised today, with either being severely abused and traumatized or being coddled. And kind of like how she's been trying to like convince me that I'm quote unquote grown. Also how my mom or her husband or her boyfriend, whatever in the world, when he kicked all my older siblings out underage, my older neighbor sister had came to live with us for a little while when she was about 14, and my quote unquote stepmom had eventually told her that she needed to leave because she was quote unquote lazy. And there was a lot of mess with that, but she felt like my older enabler sister needed to quote unquote get a job. But the thing is, places weren't hiring people at that age. And there was a lot of other issues with that situation. But yeah, so anyways, due to all that, my quote unquote stepmom was getting with people who were quote unquote in the same stage of life. And I know that this isn't what that person, the lady I mentioned earlier, meant when she said this, but it's like, I feel like the term is just really confusing, at least to me, and I'm sure just to other people. But she was getting with dudes in her 40s and 50s, and still is now, because honestly, she's still pretty young, and she's way younger than I ever thought she actually was, but I'm not even going to go into that. In fact, to be truthfully honest, she wasn't even that much older than my older neighbor sister, but anywho. So she was getting with dudes in their 40s and 50s who were very age regressed due to trauma and a lot of other issues, and just had a lot of issues, and she was taking care of them, which is like a lot of trauma bond and just different things with that, paraphilias, daddy issues, mommy issues, different stuff like that. But now the way older dude that she's with, who's about 60, he at least has like a job, but I mean he's still pretty like age regressed due to trauma. But anyways, it's like the same stage of life thing is kind of like up in the air. And then it makes me think back to a situation with my mom where she had me watching one of the crazy little movies that she watches, which now I'm kind of having like some memories. But anywho, she was watching this movie, and it was about some girl who was in like her early 20s, and she was in college, and there was this Indian dude there, and she wanted to start a tech company, but the other people her age were more so into partying and drinking, and they weren't really that serious about it. And she ended up getting assaulted at the college. Speaking on real issues that happened. But anyway, she got assaulted, and then she started to like feel weird towards the Indian dude because he was definitely in his 40s or older. And then he was like upset because she kind of turned on him due to what happened to her, because he was trying to get with her. But then eventually she changed her mind and apologized because he was the only dude that was really about starting a tech company. And so she started the tech company with him, and then they ended up getting married. And then I was like, no, this is kind of iffy. And then my mom was like, well, I mean, he's the only person that was about what she was about. And that also makes me think about the whole same stage of life. And then it goes back to this other thing I mentioned in a couple videos, especially the age gap dating for orphans, which is that, like, street kids aren't seen as kids. When you're on your own and you're younger, you're not seen as other people your age who are, like, still living with parents. Or just the fact that, like, me and other people I knew who were in the same situations or similar were never in school or around people our age, so it's like another reason to not be seen the same as other people our age. Kind of like the whole situation when I was like about 16 or something, and I had this lady try to tell me the usual pedo stuff, and like I said in that age gap dating for orphans videos, this is one of those people that, I mean, honestly, nothing's really wrong with it, because like, I mean, a lot of people do this, but they're in their like late 20s and they're dating somebody who's in their late 30s, and I mean, that's whatever, to be honest. But I still didn't like the dude. Nobody liked the dude, to be honest. He's weird, and he's been admitting he was using her. And it's like, it's just so much stuff with that situation. But anyways, this is one of those types of people that throughout their life, due to their trauma and stuff, they're always dating people who are like way older than them. And they'll like say, I can never, they'll be like 24 and they'll be like, I can never date somebody who's 24, or I can never date somebody who's 23, or I can never date somebody who's 22. But all the people you date are way older than you. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with this age gap, but still, it's just very not good to not want to date anybody who's a couple years younger than you or the same exact age as you, but you're willing to date somebody who's multiple years older than you. But then you'll call other people who date people around their age pedos and stuff. And that kind of goes back to the screenshot that I think is in the beginning from the whole Slab City dude, which I know that he was on some bull crap. But the statement still isn't wrong. If you call everybody a pedophile, then who really is one? And I know that people also try to like throw up the whole actual definition of pedophile, which would actually be somebody who's attracted to people that are prepubescent, so like younger than like 8 for girls, due to the stuff that's in the food, and like how girls have high testosterone, boys have high estrogen. That's done by design. So like people, well, honestly, I don't know though. People say that like people are maturing faster. I do definitely know that there's like stuff in the food and people do have hormonal imbalances, but I do kind of wonder how quickly people matured like way in the past. Because I mean, when you look at people from the era where people like, or at least where white people had their kids working in factories and dying and stuff, everybody did look older. And then some people say it was different in like Bible times or ancient times, but people were considered a man or woman by like somewhere from 13 to 15. It still wasn't like the same the day where like you get like tossed out onto the streets or anything, but people just weren't as infantilized and stuff. But that's kind of a whole nother video. But I do kind of wonder. But still though, I don't like the idea that it's only bad to like people who are too young for you when they're younger than 8. But yeah, still though. But anywho, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I was about 16 and she was of course trying to make me feel like a quote unquote pedophile and like I was a bad guy and I was gross for like wanting to date people. Well, not even wanting to date people, because I didn't really talk to people. I still really don't, and I'm never really around people my age, but it's just a lot of stuff with that. But making me feel like the bad guy for wanting to date people who were still in school, even though like a lot of people my age are still in school. And it's like I didn't go to middle or high school, and it's just like a lot of stuff with that. And of course other people who've been through the Cash for Kids system, or who are just in their own situations that I have known and do know, they're in the same boat. And that, and like not getting along with people their age, is why they commonly end up dating people who are way older than them, way too old for them. And then it's like, I do understand what the person means, or at least I could understand what they mean, but I also feel like due to the fact that like me and other people in situations like I'm in or have been in or whatever in the world are developmentally delayed. And I know like due to the mental health system, when people hear developmentally delayed, they'll probably be like, well, I mean, I think you're smart. That has nothing to do with what that means at all. At all. Because, of course, people have been made to think that, like, these different labels all have to revolve around being quote-unquote bad, crazy, or slow, or quote-unquote retarded, when that's... all this stuff is bullcrap. I'm not even about to go into that. But, I mean, just like with the Nova girl I mentioned before, honestly, I could say both of them. And other people I mentioned. I mean, they're all smart, obviously. Definitely smarter than other people their age and, like, majority of quote-unquote grown people. But due to the trauma and stuff and just, like, different things with not being able to relate to people their age or not even being around people their age, we're still developmentally delayed in a sense. And I know me in a lot of ways. And it's like, when you have issues like that, you end up getting with either older people or younger people. And also, well, no, that's not even the point, because I was supposed to like mostly be focusing on the whole 16-19 age gap. And I know people will be like, you're rationalizing, but like, it's like, I think like, what stage of life should somebody even be in at a certain point in their life? Because it's like, it's just really hard to explain. In the part 3 or part 4, I don't even know, the most recent, what is it called? Same Old Chomos Guys shorts. In the screenshots, it was mentioned, quote unquote, or something like this, quote unquote, people my age bully me and I don't get along with them, so I just started talking to older guys. And of course there was other trauma that caused this, but it's like, that's what happens, especially when you're the type that's like, I don't want to like be friends with younger people and be like playing tag with 7-year-olds or something. And I mean, I can understand why somebody wouldn't want to do that. But also, what's the other thing? I don't know, at least for me, I like, I don't know, I just have always noticed that like, even people who are way younger than me, it's always just like certain things about them that like, or certain like developmental milestones that they have that I don't have. Like, I'm kind of like, dang, well, will I ever even have that? Because it's like, some older people, I think mostly because I do a lot of masking around them, because like there's just like certain boundaries and stuff that like I guess I couldn't cross, or things that I feel like I couldn't or shouldn't do or say, because I don't want them to like think I'm like weird or something, which I mean people are gonna know that regardless. But especially with like older people, some of them, they'll believe that I'm any age I tell them I am. But people my age and even way younger, they don't really believe I'm anywhere near the age I say I am. And honestly, commonly people don't, but I feel like sometimes that's more about like how I look. But honestly, I don't even really feel like I look 9. I feel like I just look sick, to be honest. But I don't even look as bad as I did like in my previous situation. So I don't know, but I mean, I kind of mentioned before, I mentioned pretty often that quote-unquote white people especially usually don't believe I'm older than like 11 or 12. Like on the West Coast, I would have people say things to me like, I really couldn't gauge an age for you. You're somewhere from 10 or 12 to 25. And then I noticed in the South, they're not used to street kids, so, I mean, unless you're in Georgia, maybe. So like if you're in the South, people are going to automatically assume that you're just way older than you are. Or if you're somewhere where like people are still like in denial about street kids in the US, people will just assume, oh, maybe you're like just 30 and you just look younger. But I don't even know if that really has much to do with anything. I don't even remember why I started talking about this actually. And then throughout my life, I've always been told that I'm like too childish, quote unquote. But I don't know. I don't want to make this that rant. I don't. But still, like I've said before, I think another thing that really like hit me in the head with like 13 baseball bats was not actually realizing that I'm a kid till recently. Like, just staying outside, the peacefulness, the calmness, and like not being in constant chaos and having to like fight for my life and others constantly and like survive and all the stuff that I was doing and all that. When I wasn't since not having to do that anymore, I finally actually got the time to sit down and really think, and I realized that I actually was a kid, and I've like just recently realized that. Like, it even reminds me of this one situation where this girl named Emery, probably shouldn't say names, but I guess it doesn't even matter. This girl named Emery, in fact, she was the first person who actually told me about Paris Hilton, which is funny because they have the same last name. And she was also an AG, so she was also in the Cash for Kids system but didn't know it. But anyways, she's the first person to really tell me that I was like in the Cash for Kids system. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember how the conversation came up or the topic, but I just remember we were like somewhere from 12 to like early 14, or at least Because this was before the whole thing where I woke up from the coma, from the serotonin syndrome, and I was like, okay, I gotta stop lying to myself. So it's before then, or it was around that time. So I would say like early 14, not sure how old she was, but we're like the same age. And she was like, we're children. And I was like, what? I'm not a child. And honestly, I really don't really like the whole quote unquote children thing either. But that's another video. But she was like, we're children. And I was like, I'm not a child. I've been taking care of myself my whole life or something like that. Or it was something like that. And she was like, yes, we are children. And it's like, since realizing now that like I am a kid, but then also kind of having to deal with like the thing that, dang, so I am going to get older, but like now I'm just like realizing this, and it's like, especially due to the whole, just the situation, because as I've said before, street kids aren't seen as kids when you're on your own and you're not living with parents. You're not seen as a kid. I mean, even if you just like look a certain way, you're not seen as a kid. Like a 14-year-old who's like, I don't know, 7 feet tall or something, he's still going to be seen as like a 40-year-old man. Or like that girl I was mentioning earlier, the 17-year-old one who was dating the 21-year-old that was running around was running around assaulting people and harassing people and trying to like lure people into situations. I did say this, but the audio got like out of place. And anyways, a lot of people thought that she was like way older than she actually was. People thought that she was like 23 or something, but she was actually 17, but she looked older. And like that's another example of that. And it even reminds me of something that this girl I know has said, and she was telling me about how she was about to turn 17, which she is now, but before then she was like, I'm about to turn 17 next year or something like that. And she was like, that's scary, that sounds serious. And it's like, with all the trauma, never having parents, your parent being abusive and then dying, and just the different things that can happen or happen depending on your situation, it's just like I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. But I guess like one of the main things I was kind of talking about before the rant I just started to go on a little bit is like just being seen differently due to different situations and like more expectation. The less you have, the more people expect out of you, but it's still kind of like, I don't know, I just hope that I explained this good enough. So let me actually start reading stuff. This is from a video. The video threw me off because they wouldn't say any real ages. Because they were really making it sound like, okay, I mean, is she like 18 and the person was 17? Because they weren't really saying enough info. But I don't really know what happened. It's just like they were beating around the bush so much, it sounded like they were like playing games. But stop messing, well, no, not even that comment, this comment. Stop messing with minors if you were an adult. This goes out to my baby mama when she was 19 and I was 19 and she cheated on me with a 17-year-old male. And the thing is, I mean, the cheating wasn't the good thing, but it's like, people really have to understand that legalities and morals has nothing to do with anything. I mean, the age of consent is literally like 14. So it's like, legalities have really nothing to do with anything. Because it's like, people at like 18 or 21 is some magic age, as was said in the thumbnail I used for one of the videos, can't remember which one, but somebody was like, I don't think people should date or have kids till 18, and it's like, okay, what in the world? Because like most 18-year-olds and people even way older than that are still being forced to go to school, so it's like, what in the world? And it's like, 18 doesn't make you ready to date or anything. Honestly, none of the people, it seems like nobody's really ready to date or have kids with the way the world is. And, I mean, if you look around you, look at the situations that people are in and that their kids are in, that the stuff that they're doing to their kids, it's like, what? But yeah, 17 and 19 isn't even a bad thing. And it's really annoying that people, like, will try to push somebody into, like, a guilt trip, moral decay for something like that, for that type of age gap, which is honestly barely even really an age gap. But like, if somebody's 18 and they're dating somebody who's 95, or if they're 14 and they're dating somebody who's like 27, that's okay. But for whatever reason, people do not want people to date people that are like their same age. Like, that should honestly be the title of the video. I don't know. But like, and then it's like another thing with it is that like, if you're an adult, depending on where you live at 18, I mean, here people are still being forced to go to high school at 18. So it's like, I mean, what in the world? And as I always say, you're a federal minor till 26. So then there's that. And that's like the real reason you really can't do anything till like 30. Then there's the whole 21 thing, and it's like in some places you can drive at 14 kind of, but like in some places you can't drive till like 21, and I know you can't get a CDL till like 21. And then but then people talk about how like you can drive at any age in Mexico. And I noticed that people in the US really have an issue for places where like everybody's not like locked in a cage till they're 70. And while being treated on is really bad, people, I mean, you can't just act like the person's like, I don't know, like a pedophile, quote unquote. And then another story that I seen somewhere. So, Australian boy, dad was never in his life, parents got divorced, mom was neglectful or working a lot, well both, and some other stuff. And he was 15, which is the age of consent, or the age of consent is 14. And he was with some lady that was in her 20s. And pretty much she used him and all that stuff, and all types of stuff happened, then she left. And the thing is, that's legal, but it's not morally good, and obviously a lot of things were very obviously not good about that situation. But like, due to the fact that it's legal, people will be like, well, that's okay, but like, if this was like I don't know, in the US and they were 15 and they were like dating somebody who was 17, people would be like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. But people don't even see anything wrong with stuff like that when it happens in the US, so it's still like whatever. Then this guy I mentioned before, he was a foster kid. He's still in a bad situation. His whole life has been pretty much bad, very bad. Grew up in the cash for kids system, been in the cash for kids system his whole life. Since the mental health system is a part of all branches of the cash for kids system, of course he was dragged through that. And so he was forced on drugs, and then his psychiatrist went on vacation. And since the psychiatrist wasn't there to manage the drugs, the psychiatrist just like cold turkeyed him off of like over 8 drugs. And of course this caused a lot of issues and more brain damage, and he completely lost his mind and ended up in jail when he's already been locked up his whole life. So he ended up doing the thing that people commonly have to do. He was dating this pedophile lady for like food and support and a place to stay and all those things. And she sexually assaulted him for years and then got him put on the sex offender registry. Because of course that's how these legalities work with these ch1ldhood lawyers and judges. But still, what point was I supposed to be making with that? I don't even remember what point I was supposed to be making with that. I'm not gonna lie, my math when it comes to ages is really off, but this doesn't really make sense to me, how this happened. Or maybe like, I don't know, is it like a half year type thing? I don't even know if that makes sense, but if I'm 15 and I'm dating an 18-year-old who I met when I was 13 and he was 16, does that make it illegal or him a pedo? We've been friends this whole time. Honestly, this is just like a no for me, but it was more so some of the comments that stood out more. Not the comments of people like saying that this is like the best thing ever, but it's still kind of like, I don't even know what I was about to say. But to throw something else in though, as I've mentioned before in other videos, in America, for whatever reason, people like to base dating off of grades in school. And I feel like that's honestly completely bullcrap. People being like, oh, well, you shouldn't date a 13-year-old at 14 because they're in middle school and you're in high school. But as I even mentioned in the age gap dating for orphans videos, like, I have cousins who went to some private school their mom owns, and so due to that they skipped a couple of grades, and so when they were in regular school they were way younger than everybody else in their classes. So it's like, so they're 16 but everybody else in their class is like 18, so then what? But it's just a lot of mess with that. I feel like the whole grade thing has nothing to do with anything. Like telling somebody they can't date somebody who's the same age as them, or 1 year younger, 1 year older, or even a few years younger or older because they're in middle school or they're in high school, or I mean maybe the elementary thing, because like I said, I feel like just due to issues I had when I was like 14 or 13, I like these couple of guys who were like 12 or something, and like a lot of people said that wasn't like a good thing. Or like when I was 13, I liked this one guy who was 11, this other guy who was 12, and people consider that pedophilia. And I guess I could see that because like the development that happens or should have happened. But that's also why I said I just feel like maybe just possibly don't date people who are younger than you until you're like, I don't know, like what age did I say? I think I said 14. No, I didn't say 14, because like a lot of people don't like the 12-14 thing either. And I could see why, honestly. But I guess like, I don't know though. I think like one of the things with it is not just being developmentally delayed, but like if it happened, if you, okay, wait a minute. If you dated people who were 14 when you were 12 and nobody saw anything wrong with it, which I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it depends, but like that's why I just don't date people, obviously, because obviously like I'm just not the person to really take advice from for everything. But like I didn't see anything wrong with it, but this one girl did though. This one girl I knew who I was friends with at the time, she didn't like the dude, but we honestly weren't even really dating. But like I liked that dude and we were quote unquote talking, but then I do the same thing myself as at 14, and then people tell me that I'm a quote unquote pedophile. But I feel like in that situation it can make sense, but I feel like if you're like 14 and 16, or like 16 up, it's kind of whatever. But I guess that's why maybe like if you just have certain issues or you just have been through certain things, you really just shouldn't date people at all. And like I don't date people, I'm never around people my age anyways, I say all the time, so it's like not even a point, because that means that anybody I'm dating is going to be like 25 plus. But yeah, so honestly probably even older than that, so it's still kind of like, I don't know. And I guess that's why like some people just go for older people. Although the thing is, it wasn't that like I was just trying to like get with whoever I could because I felt like I couldn't get with people my age. I just like liked younger people, to be honest, which is why I said in like the age gap dating for orphans videos, you should really like pay attention to motives of yourself and others. So like if you just like dating younger people because you just like younger people and you just like people who are younger because you think that they look better, then watch yourself. Okay, so 18 and 15. One thing I can say that I mentioned in the other video where I talk about this is that a lot of people who are in high school, they see a lot of things wrong with the issue of people who are about to graduate dating people who just came into high school from middle school. And like I said, the whole grade thing, that's all bullcrap. Honestly, you could really be like any age in any grade. Any age up to like 21 in like any grade, at least for high school, up to 21. But yeah, so I feel like people should like maybe more so focus on mental capabilities, or I guess like just anything more than 3 years. I'd say that, because like I said, I can't even really say the whole mental thing when it comes to brain development. But also, something that can help in a lot of situations is, what would you do? What would you do if it was you, if it was your sibling, if it was like, I don't know, your kid? Some people can't even think like that. So like if you have a sibling, think about if it was you. Like some people can't think about how they would feel if like they were 30 and they were dating somebody who was their age. If they're like 15, they're dating a 30-year-old. And I can see why that could be hard to think about. So like if it was maybe like if you had a sibling, no, not even that. Would you date your dad or your mom? There we go. Maybe that could help. Hopefully that could help. Stuff like that. And so like, I guess when it comes to like dating younger people, you could like think about it the same way. Like, but I know some people will be like, well, of course I wouldn't date my sibling or my mom because they're related to me, or they're my mom. But I mean, I could get that too. But I guess that's why, like, one thing that I realized when I was, I don't know, like 7 or something, is that really being stupid or being ignorant makes you evil, because you do a lot of things you shouldn't do on accident. And I didn't just learn this from like from things that other people did, but even from things that like I did myself, even like in the future after that whole epiphany at like 7. Because it's like, honestly, I really feel like some of the worst things you do are the things that you see nothing wrong with. Or worse, you like know you shouldn't do something, but then you do it anyway because like it's good in the moment. And then 18 is considered an adult, therefore men, not boys. Although the thing about that is that that's still legalities. I mean, let's be realistic. You go through ageism all the way till your 30s, and even older people still do the whole I'm grown thing, but people that run around saying I'm grown are always toxic and abusive and Jezebelic anyway, so I wouldn't really pay them any mind. But still, you go through ageism well into your 30s. Well into your 30s, you saw people calling you a kid, you saw people calling you a quote-unquote child in your 20s and stuff, and it's never like, you're a child, so we should take care of you and protect you. It's, you're a child, so do what I say and have sex with me when I want you to. In fact, I had someone tell me that the people that feel that they deserve to like know my whole life story and everything about me because I'm quote-unquote a child are monitoring spirits. Then the thing is, you can get charged as an adult at any age. So it's like, I mean, you could be 11, but all of a sudden you committed a crime. Supposedly, now you're an adult. So legalities, that's kind of up in the air, but anyways. 18 and 15, are you okay in your mind? You talk like something snaps in a boy at 18 and changes, wait a minute, drastically to become an animal. 18-year-old boys are still boys. Well, I guess I'd have to read this whole comment up here. I didn't even screenshot all of that. But if you hebephile is like pedophilia for the specific age group, 12-ish to 16, they're kind of pedophile and will use, well, I mean, it's a kind of paraphilia, but, and will use friendship and grooming to make young girls be in relationships with them so that they won't go to authorities and her peer group treat it as normal. The girl closer to age, it is heartbreak to me as a teacher to see a freshman with an adult. A man who is interested in young girls is probably not much more mature than you are, which should be a red flag. He's not. Well, I mean, I do get what they mean by acting like 18 is like a grown man. I mean, if they're talking about the original post, then I mean, everything is wrong with that situation. But I actually didn't really pay attention to all that before screenshotting this. I really should have, but like, if they're just responding to like somebody's individual comment, I don't know. 14 and 18 isn't it, but yeah. I'm probably gonna title this Paraphilias Are a Generational Curse. I probably should, to be honest. Stop seeing this guy ASAP. You two are at different phases of your lives. Date someone near your age while you're under 18. But, okay, so when you're 18, start dating him again when he's I don't know, 27 or something. I'm not good with math, but it's like, people really have to stop this 18 stuff. That's not good advice either. Honestly, from the looks of it, she's in a bad situation with her family, so she really just shouldn't be dating at all. And that's like one of the best things that I could advise people, and even myself, to just not date people. You can't even drive. They can't drive because of legalities, not because they couldn't get in the car and learn how. But I do understand the situation with the original post is not good whatsoever. It shouldn't have ever happened. And honestly, now to think about it, now to really think about it, because like I said, I haven't been to school, but now to think about it, because I said that like 10 times, how did he even really meet her in the first place? Because I don't even think they'd be in like the same school with the age difference of 13 and 16. But yeah, anywho, you need someone to take you to school dances. That's bull crap though. That made me think back to that whole situation with this dude I knew. He was 19. I don't even know if he's still alive. A lot of people say that they think he like unalived himself. But I talked about him in the video Dreamer Kid in the first video in the playlist Truth Behind Missing Kids Cases. And he was a 19-year-old, at least supposedly, who was dating some predator lady who was in her like late 20s or something. I wish I still had the screenshots or the pictures, but she was a witchcraft queen, and she went to prom with this 15-year-old and even sent him the pictures to throw it up in his face that she was cheating on him by going to a high school prom that she shouldn't have even been allowed in at like 25 plus with a 15-year-old. And honestly, even though all the school hooping stuff is staged and false flagged and pre-planned, but the fact that things like that can happen, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if a real one was to happen one day. Not that people aren't getting hurt, but I mean like one that isn't pre-planned by somebody that's like a Delta program assassin under trauma-based mind control. And then she said, I'm scared. And this is a horrible situation, to be truthfully honest. But it makes me think back to the situation of this boy that used to be on Reddit, and he was 13, maybe even younger. And he was getting essayed by his older brother who was 19. And he was, of course, addicted to corn and all that stuff. And the family was, of course, messed up. And the thing is, especially when it comes to like sexual issues or sexual addiction, really, you don't have any options but to not act on them. People like get brainwashed in the school system or just in society, and they get told it's all normal, everything's puberty, quote unquote, when really they're like just talking you into like getting spirit spouses and marine spirit attacks and all that stuff. And they're like, in fact they even teach people, or what LT Corbett was saying in her videos, they teach people about all corn, all types of masturbation, all that stuff. But it's like, honestly, all that stuff does lead to the possession, perversion highway where you eventually become very demonized. Not even demonized, I won't even say that. Because, I mean, anybody who's been through anything, really, they would be. But, like, full-blown possession, that's all that leads to. And the thing is, people will be like, well, if I just, I don't know. What do people say? Be your own bee? If I just be my own bee and I just, like, date myself for a little while, and if I just handle the situation myself, then I won't even, like, need anybody else, and I can just, like, go to, what's that store in Santa Cruz? Good Vibrations. I can just go there, and then it'll fix all my problems, and then I won't, like, want to be with anybody. But honestly, the more you feed any type of lust, or really any type of anything, addiction, especially sexual stuff, or really anything, the worse it'll get. That actually doesn't make it better. Like, honestly, if people were taught to not act on any of those things in the first place from a young age, and if they wouldn't, like, go through the trauma that also causes them to, like, do different things like that, then it would just save them from so many different issues. Like, imagine not being neglected to where you can just fall into, like, corn addiction, or not being showed corn and all types of crazy, weird horror movie, weird, crazy mess from birth to pretty much always. Imagine how much issues a lot of people wouldn't have. Like, people used to talk about how guys are raised in corn, but honestly, everybody is. Like, as I talked about before, childhood corn addiction, that's one of the real pandemics right beside, abuse, which, I mean, honestly, it is abuse, to be honest. And not because of the age either, because a lot of people say, oh, well, once you're 18. So it's like, don't start to get on the path of becoming a serial unaliver essayer before 18. Once you're 18, just like on one specific day, the day you turn 18, 12 a.m., a switch flips, because I've messed it up so many times, and I don't know why I just couldn't get that out. So a switch flips, and then you're good, you can do whatever, you're grown, and then it's whatever after that, while still being forced to go to high school. But point is, the more you act on it, the worse it gets. That's the point. Just don't do it in the first place. And it's like, just staying outside has helped me with like a lot of issues. And I noticed that with getting over like sexual addiction, that was mostly like coping mechanisms for all of the different horrors. It's like it's definitely a process, but a lot of issues and things have just gotten better. Like, really. Like, aside from just generational curses and generational, probably like predatory spirits and just different things that revolve around PDs and paraphilias and different stuff like that. Aside from that, if I could have managed to like not be shown corn every day as a baby and stuff, and not have a lot of different things happen to where I just could have not done that, and if I would have never like fallen into like sexual addiction myself, even if I was like just born with certain spirits that like still made me, I don't know, I guess like, well, I can't even say that, like, I guess I'd still be born with them, but I would just easily avoid doing certain things and wouldn't have done or wouldn't do a lot of things if I wouldn't have ever fallen into like sexual addiction. Or pretty much, if I wouldn't have had like demons in my ears and I wouldn't have been like acting on things, then I could have avoided a lot of things, especially like getting worse. Like, I still have yet to make the video because I didn't really know if I wanted to do it, but I've been thinking about like making a video and just talking about different dreams I had that were signs of like possession getting worse, but I didn't really know at the time. I mean, I knew that they were demonic, but I didn't really know what they meant. But I've been thinking about making a video about that and just talking about all the demonic warfare that happens when you like are doing those types of things and you're already like in a bad situation anyways. But to end this off, I honestly don't really know what same stage of life is really supposed to mean. And it seems it means different things to different people in different situations in different cultures.